Chapter 256, Absurd Pressure. An instant later, a roaring inferno descended, a bright comet of golden flame obliterating the very ground it touched. The explosive impact scattered soil and stone outward, leaving molten scars glowing angrily beneath the fading flames. Standing calmly at the center was Celine, her dark cloak billowing gently with the flames. The kidnapper leader's eyes widened dramatically, horror flooding his gaze as recognition dawned, a terror deeper and sharper than simple fear of strength. His voice trembled violently, reduced to a whispering stammer, that face, the flames, it can't be." He staggered backward, panic surging through his limbs. "She's the legendary runesmith. Celine Hellstrom." Frantic hands flew towards his spatial ring. "Retria." But before he could activate it, Celine vanished, reappearing instantly by his side, palm pressed gently against his chest. His eyes widened in primal fear as flames erupted within him, consuming his core, burning him from the inside out. Crimson and gold runes scorched his skin, sealing his voice, leaving him voiceless even as he writhed in silent agony, dissolving into ash within mere heartbeats. The vice leader stumbled backward desperately, frantic fingers weaving a desperate wood element binding spell. Thick, thorn-covered vines erupted violently, surging toward Celine with murderous intent. But her stride never faltered, flames surged protectively around her, incinerating the bindings upon contact. Her voice emerged, a freezing whisper laced with pure wrath, coldly measured and utterly merciless. "You laid your hands on my grandson." The vice leader tried desperately to plead, voice choked by his fear. But no words came, strangled by the smothering pressure of Celine's aura. Flaming runes appeared in the air, razor-sharp sigils plunging viciously into his limbs like heated needles. He shrieked soundlessly as Celine methodically unraveled his mana core, draining and boiling his essence slowly, painfully. Flames crept through his veins, smoldering him from within until only charred bones remained, then ash. Throughout this brutal execution, Edgar stood motionless, respectfully silent, eyes reflecting grim understanding. He did not interfere, not out of fear, but because this act was Celine's right, her vengeance, her judgment upon those who dared threaten her family. "She's not just punishing them," Edgar murmured softly to himself with realization. "She's venting her anger." As the final ashes drifted slowly toward the ground, Celine exhaled gently. The raging flames around her dimmed, fading peacefully into embers carried softly by the wind. Silence settled once more over the ruined forest, oppressive yet calm in its intensity. Edgar stepped forward slowly, lowering his head respectfully, voice quiet yet firm. "I failed to finish them before you arrived, Lady Celine." Celine shook her head slightly, turning toward him with an unreadable gaze. Her voice softened marginally, stern yet carrying an undertone of gratitude. "You held them long enough. More than I expected." Her eyes lingered momentarily on the battlefield around them, acknowledging Edgar's unwavering stand against two foes of equal strength. "You didn't fail. They did." With a final, calm look toward Edgar, Celine turned smoothly away, her cloak fluttering gently behind her. A deep calmness reclaimed the battlefield, fragile yet heavy with tension. The once devastated clearing was now bathed in soft, silvery moonlight, highlighting scorched earth and scattered fragments of battle. Cold wind blew gently through shattered branches and burned leaves, carrying away lingering embers as the world settled into an uneasy peace. Orion lay motionless in Fiora's trembling embrace, the fierce draconic features softened by his unconscious state. Fiora's eyes were filled with worry and tenderness, her delicate fingers carefully wiping the blood from his face with a torn piece of cloth. She moved slowly, reverently, each gentle stroke an unspoken prayer for Orion's well-being. Her breath came softly, unevenly, the raw emotion she fought to contain threatening to spill with every passing moment. Beside her knelt Rena, silent and lost within her own turbulent thoughts. Her eyes, once vibrant, now stared blankly into the distance, unfocused, exhaustion and lingering sorrow etched deeply into her pale face. She quietly cleaned Orion's bloodied chest, movements mechanical yet tender, her tears having long since dried, leaving only a lingering ache deep within her chest. Magi sat further away, isolated in his own quiet contemplation. His usually lively demeanor was entirely subdued, his shoulders slightly slumped, the small bunny cradled tightly against his chest. His gaze drifted upwards, focused unblinkingly on the endless expanse of stars above, reflecting silently upon the magnitude of the events he'd witnessed. Orion's transformation and astonishing strength had shaken him deeply, leaving him both awestruck and humbled by a power that surpassed all reason. Yet, there burned a fire within him, one that he had thought was long extinguished on that fateful day. In this fragile tranquility, a sudden deafening crack split the silence, a sonic boom resonating sharply through the night sky. The air itself seemed to rend violently, a blazing golden-blue streak slicing through the heavens, descending rapidly like a fallen star. Pressure built intensely, bending trees with its sheer velocity as it rushed towards the ground. The earth ruptured violently as Eldrick landed, forming a massive crater beneath his feet. His cloak billowed dramatically behind him, the shockwave he generated deliberately controlled to spare those around him. Dust spiraled gently upward around him, settling softly back to the broken soil. For a heartbeat, absolute silence returned. All eyes fixed upon Eldrick, whose towering presence commanded immediate respect. Older, tall, bearing the unmistakable aura of a seasoned strategist tempered through endless battles, Eldrick's face was stern, etched with lines of wisdom and strength. His eyes immediately found Orion's draconic body. His face visibly showed surprise before concern replaced it. Celine and Edgar arrived mere moments later, stopping abruptly at the crater's edge. Celine's fiery gaze softened subtly, a flicker of relief briefly visible beneath her composed exterior as she saw Eldrick kneeling beside their grandson. Edgar exhaled slowly, visibly relaxing, confidence returning at Eldrick's steady presence. Eldrick extended a hand slowly, hovering gently above Orion's chest. Soft, glowing mana flowed quietly from his fingertips, carefully assessing the critical damage within Orion's battered body. Eldrick's brows furrowed deeply, a heavy sigh escaping him as he took in the full extent of the internal devastation Orion had suffered. "You really did it, didn't you?" Eldrick murmured softly, voice low, filled not with anger but profound sorrow and disbelief. His quiet words held more weight than any shouted reprimand or direct question could carry. Celine stepped closer, standing silently at Eldrick's side, her voice measured yet undeniably tender beneath her calm facade. "You're late." Eldrick released another slow, weary breath, his eyes never leaving Orion's unconscious form. A subtle, bitter humor tinted his quiet response. "You didn't leave me anything to fight." His gaze lingered deeply upon Orion's transformed state, the scales, the horns, the draconic aura still faintly flickering around him. Eldrick's voice fell lower, quiet disbelief and confusion filling his murmured words. "He really hid the fact that he's related to the dragons so well. But what is even happening here? How does a draconian undergo evolution like this?" Celine's expression darkened slightly, eyes fixed upon Orion's face as she spoke softly yet firmly. "How serious are his injuries?" Eldrick slowly shook his head, the heavy burden of understanding evident in his weary features. His voice was grim, tinged with reluctant honesty. "You have seen them for yourself." He lowered his hand gently, closing his eyes momentarily in silent contemplation. A solemn stillness fell once more upon the group as the weight of Orion's sacrifice sank deeper into their collective awareness. The night felt colder, harsher, as reality settled heavily upon their hearts. Finally, Eldrick stood, ordering the others, "Take him to the carrier." However, before his words could even finish, an unimaginable amount of pressure descended from the skies above, halting even the particles in the air as everything froze on the spot. Chapter 257, Origin of the Strange Stone Plus, Turn Off Reset. Chapter 257, Origin of the Strange Stone. An unimaginable, transcendent pressure cascaded downward, crushing reality itself into absolute stillness. Eldrick's unfinished command died in his throat, his mouth frozen mid-word. In that instant, the fabric of existence crystallized, suspended between heartbeats. Leaves hung motionless in midair, shimmering embers halted their dance, and even the smallest particles of mana stood impossibly still, tiny stars trapped in glass. Time had not simply paused, it had been seized, shackled, and held in absolute stasis. Within this frozen silence, a single entity stirred. A faint pulse radiated outward from Orion's slumbering form, barely perceptible yet powerful enough to ripple softly through the unmoving air. Hovering gently above Orion, the Limitless system activated, forming first as a translucent, shimmering interface, then swiftly reshaping into an avatar. Lumi appeared, her figure ghostly and ethereal, threads of digital brilliance cascading around her like fragments of captured moonlight. Her expression was wary, apprehensive eyes sweeping cautiously through the frozen scene. A tremor of anxiety coursed visibly through her projection, fracturing her form momentarily with faint digital flickers. A ripple, delicate yet absolute, gently disturbed the void above. Stars blinked quietly into oblivion, leaving an endless depth of pure darkness, from which a presence slowly emerged. He stepped downward from the nothingness, feet treading invisible stairs carved from empty space itself. There was no explosion, no fanfare, only a silent arrival marked by cosmic stillness. The fabric of reality itself seemed to part gracefully before him, embracing him reverently, respectfully. Echo appeared, this time as an aged figure quietly radiant with profound melancholy. Long silver hair cascaded softly around his weary face, eyes shadowed by eons of solitude and patience. His robes, woven of star thread and shimmering memories, appeared faded and worn, each strand carrying the mark of infinite time he had traveled. His presence held no outward hostility, only an ancient, immeasurable weight of experience and contemplation. Gently, silently, Echo descended, touching softly upon the devastated soil without disturbing a single grain. His gaze drifted first to Orion's unconscious, draconic form, eyes clouding briefly with understanding. He then spoke with a sigh. "Primus. I did not expect your evolution to come so soon. What have you done to yourself?" Lumi's form stiffened protectively, flickering lines of defensive light tracing through her avatar. Her voice held caution filled with defiance, yet laced with fear she struggled to conceal. "Echo, what do you want here?" Echo did not immediately respond, his eyes never leaving Orion's battered form. A gentle sigh escaped him, carrying the sorrow of countless lifetimes. He stands precariously on the edge. The boundary between evolution and total collapse is thin, thinner than even you realize. Lumi's screen grew brighter as she asked. "What does that have to do with you?" Echo gently shook his head. "It is not what I want, it is what he needs." Saying so, he began walking forward. Lumi cautiously said, her tone sharpening protectively. "Stay back. I have connected with the Origin realm and have gained access to the core Origin Genesis energy. Make one wrong move, and..." Echo's hand raised slightly, his calm voice cutting her short. "You could, Limitless. But such power, once unleashed, would shatter him. While you will become the same old Limitless relic in search of a new host with all your memories erased. You know this truth as well as I." Lumi's ethereal form flickered, betraying her inner turmoil. Her voice trembled faintly. "How do you?" Echo's gentle gaze finally met hers, filled with quiet understanding and compassion. "You have grown much since our last encounter. You couldn't even resist when I changed your infinite gacha, but now you can access the Origin realm." Lumi stayed silent as Echo continued softly, "The scars of countless failures have refined your core. You understand your host's worth better now. You fear losing him." Lumi's expression softened marginally inwardly, tension easing slightly. Her eyes watched Echo warily, uncertain. "If you truly understand, then tell me plainly, why have you come?" Echo knelt slowly beside Orion, his fingers hovering gently above the slumbering dragon's chest. Golden threads of ancient energy, primordial laws more profound than mere mana or elements, coalesced softly at his fingertips, each strand humming faintly with the resonance of his might. His voice was barely audible, laced with a bit of regret. "His foundation has fractured deeply, more so than your system diagnostic can perceive. Without external aid, even after his evolution is completed, his foundation will be left crippled. And his potential will forever be diminished. As for his fate..." Lumi hesitated, her voice hesitant, filled with cautious hope. "Then, do you have a solution?" Echo did not answer immediately. His gaze lingered solemnly upon Orion's peaceful face, lost in thought. When he spoke again, his tone carried reluctant finality. Breaking rules set by my own hand has consequences, consequences you cannot fathom. But I see no other choice. But first, answer a few questions of mine. Lumi anxiously nodded her head. First, has the strange stone made any movements yet? Lumi hesitated, her digital form flickering briefly with uncertainty before finally responding. Her voice was gentle yet tinged with confusion, the blue aura surrounding her pulsing softly in rhythm with her unease. No, the strange stone has remained completely inert. It's been stored securely within Master's inventory ever since he received it, and it hasn't moved, vibrated, or exhibited any unusual properties whatsoever. Echo listened quietly, his expression unreadable, but his eyes grew subtly more troubled. He nodded slowly, the ancient weight upon his shoulders seeming heavier than ever. He began to speak, but Lumi swiftly interjected, unable to suppress her burning curiosity. But Echo, what exactly is this strange stone? I've tried countless times to analyze it, yet I can't sense anything from it at all. It's as if it doesn't truly exist in our reality, almost like it's absent from the fabric of our chiliocosm structure entirely. Echo's eyes softened slightly, a sigh slipping from his lips, filled with the exhaustion of epics. He glanced thoughtfully toward Orion's still body, his eyes tracing the outlines of the young man's draconic features before answering slowly, voice filled with the eons of thoughts. That stone, he murmured, eyes distant with memory, was something I and a few companions discovered countless eons ago, at the furthest edges of our chiliocosm structure. It arrived from somewhere beyond even the outer void itself, drifting silently through the chaotic turbulence of the warped nodes surrounding our realities. Lumi hovered quietly, hanging upon every softly spoken word. Echo continued gently, his gaze distant yet vividly recalling those ancient moments. We were fascinated, of course. Every one of us, every old emperor, every sovereign and god, tried in vain to uncover its secrets. The stone defied understanding utterly. Our strongest attempts at examination could not scratch even its surface. It seemed impervious to everything: mana, soul techniques, divine force, primordial laws, origin energy. Eventually, when all others gave up in frustration, it came into my possession. Echo paused, eyes returning to Orion's sleeping figure with gentle concern. His voice softened again, becoming introspective, almost wistful. When Primus Orion performed his draws, I felt it. For the first time after countless silent eternities, the strange stone resonated. It was subtle, barely a whisper, almost imperceptible even to me, but the vibration was unmistakable. Intrigued and hopeful, I chose to bend the very rules I myself established, allowing it to be drawn by him. Lumi's eyes widened slightly, her form shuddering faintly at the implications. You manipulated the gotcha just to give him that stone? But why risk breaking your own rules, Echo? Chapter 258, Confrontation. He exhaled slowly, gently shaking his head. Because, limitless, something within that stone resonated only with him. It chose him, even across the endless sea of beings I have met and despite the barriers between our reality and wherever it originated. I believe it is tied to his destiny in ways neither of us can fully comprehend. A contemplative silence settled between them, the weight of Echo's revelation pressing upon Lumi. Her thoughts churned, processing these ancient truths, still filled with unanswered questions. But before she could voice another query, Echo's expression hardened with resolve, the gentle sorrow in his eyes replaced by determination. He raised his hand slowly, golden threads of ancient cosmic law spiraling around his fingertips once more, prepared to mend the devastating fractures in Orion's body and soul. Yet just as the celestial power reached its apex, space itself quivered abruptly, and a deep, resonant voice echoed sharply through the frozen stillness with absolute and immeasurable authority. Halt, throneless emperor. The voice did not emerge from any single point in space. It resounded everywhere, etched directly into the essence of existence itself. Each word vibrated with impossible power, shattering the fragile calm Echo had carefully woven. Above, darkness thickened, an oppressive abyss swallowing the frozen stars. From this boundless darkness, something stirred, immense and ancient, heralding its arrival with an aura of profound dread. A colossal shadow unfurled slowly, stretching across the horizon of this suspended moment. Formless at first, it coalesced gradually, weaving itself into the unmistakable shape of an enormous dragon. Its body seemed formed of condensed void, its scales glittering obsidian black, absorbing all remaining light like cosmic maelstrom. Its eyes blazed with a cold, cruel light, like twin dying stars peering down with dispassionate, immeasurable authority. The deaf true Dragon Emperor had arrived. Lumi's avatar trembled visibly, her digital form nearly flickering out of existence under the overwhelming magnitude of this entity. Her eyes were wide, her projection wavering in and out of focus, struggling desperately to maintain coherence in the face of such crushing power. Yet Echo stood unfazed. His expression remained calm, solemn, though his eyes held a quiet sadness, recognizing the inevitability of this confrontation. Slowly, he lowered his hand, the golden threads dissipating gently, fading away like dying embers. He turned his gaze upward, meeting the Death Dragon Emperor's massive, oppressive presence without flinching. His voice was steady, carrying the quiet defiance and wisdom of countless eons. "You would interfere now, Death Dragon Emperor?" Echo asked quietly, a subtle challenge woven into the calm of his tone. The Death Dragon Emperor did not answer immediately. Instead, reality itself strained as more ancient presences began to descend, rupturing the frozen heavens with violent, cascading waves of dark, primordial energy. One by one, they emerged from the darkness behind their leader, stepping forward into the suspended world of time and space, each presence more terrifying and profound than the last. The Darkness Dragon Emperor appeared first, his massive form shrouded entirely in coils of corrupted shadow and anti-light, his mere existence devouring nearby stars into nothingness. Next came the Blood Dragon Empress, surrounded by rivers of flowing crimson that dripped with ancient violence and endless warfare. Her scarlet gaze pierced the stillness with a cold, calculating cruelty. Beside her stood the Decayed Dragon Emperor, his skeletal visage covered in moss and rot, an aura of entropic decay emanating from every step he took. Further presences followed swiftly, the Demon Empress, her eyes blazing like molten obsidian, accompanied by demon emperors whose infernal thrones burned with malice and sin, and towering above them all, the Titan Emperor loomed silently, arms crossed and countenance stern, a figure whose very existence was like an immovable mountain in the void. Reality shuddered violently beneath their collective weight, cracks spiderwebbing outward through the fabric of space and time. Yet Echo remained unbowed, his calm gaze unwavering. Suddenly, another surge, blinding and pure, crashed down, fiercely contesting the previous oppressive darkness. The sky shattered once again, this time bathed in radiant brilliance, as a second wave of emperors arrived from the origin realm itself. Time Dragon Emperor descended first, a river of celestial sands and ancient memories streaming around him. The Life Dragon Emperor followed, his aura radiant with nurturing vitality, gently healing the broken void with mere proximity. Then appeared the Illusion Dragon Empress, shifting seamlessly between endless forms, each ephemeral and breathtakingly beautiful, yet impossible to fully perceive. Beside them appeared the Gravity Dragon Emperor, his presence bending reality into infinite stillness, surrounded by the Elven Empress, whose soft voice sang silently through the frozen air, weaving life from shattered nothingness. The Great World Tree Empress emerged as an immense, radiant root system that anchored reality itself, while the Phoenix Empress blazed forth with wings of eternal fire, her flames illuminating the suspended darkness. Finally, the Fairy Empress appeared, her laughter echoing softly in defiance, calm yet whimsical, as the two factions faced each other across the shattered expanse. The frozen world shifted subtly, silently fracturing beneath their combined might, causing reality itself to weep as the prime realm shattered irreparably under the strain. Everyone within it, Celine, Eldrick, Fiora, Lucan, vanished instantly, obliterated by the sheer magnitude of these opposing cosmic wills. Only Orion remained, still quietly shielded within Echo's veil of timeless golden energy. Echo stood between these colossal factions, a silent, solitary figure unshaken by their arrival. He gazed calmly over both sides, his ancient eyes filled with quiet understanding. The Death Dragon Emperor's voice rumbled once again, dripping with cold disdain. You may be one of the strongest beings within the chillicosm structure, Echo, but even you must abide by the rules you yourself created. Echo nodded gently, acknowledging the words without resistance. Indeed, I must. Yet even the rules of reality must sometimes yield before necessity. The deaf dragon emperor narrowed his immense eyes, a growl echoing through the void. Necessity? You mean your pity for this single mortal? Echo's voice sharpened then, slicing cleanly through the oppressive tension like a blade of cosmic truth. This mortal carries the fate you yourselves have chosen to abandon. You've already discarded the original purpose of the limitless system, turning your backs on what we once all sought together. The void shuddered with suppressed anger, as the deaf dragon emperor responded with chilling logic. We have waited epochs, countless billions, even trillions of years, for the limitless bearer to rise. And in all that time, we have received nothing. We have seen failure after failure. His voice deepened further, resonating with icy determination. None among us can wield the limitless system. It has proven futile. Thus, we chose a different path, a path we can control. Echo's expression saddened visibly, his ancient eyes filled with quiet sorrow as he gazed up at the towering emperor. And in choosing this path, you risk awakening something far darker, far more terrifying, from beyond the void, forces none of us can fully comprehend or control. A heavy, oppressive silence stretched between the factions, tension thick enough to shatter stars. Echo finally lowered his gaze back to Orion, the golden thread slowly returning to his fingertips once again. I will do what I must, Echo murmured softly, defiance and resolution gently woven into every word. You have abandoned hope, but I refuse to do the same. The deaf dragon emperor's eyes blazed dangerously, and the factions shifted subtly, preparing for confrontation, yet Echo stood unmoving, unyielding in his absolute strength. Chapter 259, Past Echo stood at the heart of the shattered void, the remnants of the prime realm floating around him in ghostly fragments of reality. His timeless golden energy surrounded Orion protectively, a gentle sanctuary amidst the utter ruin wrought by the mere shadows of the gathered emperors. Echo's expression was solemn, deeply burdened by the tragic destruction, a consequence of merely the shadows of beings whose true forms could not even enter this fragile space without annihilating it instantly. Around him, reality itself was warped, space fractured and folded in impossible patterns, and stars blinked silently through distant rifts. In this eerie silence, tension simmered, dangerously close to erupting into cosmic violence. The deaf true dragon emperor's enormous presence loomed darkly above, eyes blazing like dying suns. His voice was impossibly heavy, reverberating through the fabric of the shattered realm, resonating with absolute authority. You may be one of the strongest beings within the chiliocosm structure, throneless emperor, but even you are not the strongest. Echo nodded slowly, acknowledging the truth without resistance. His silvered hair shifted gently as he raised his gaze, meeting the unfathomable eyes of the deaf dragon emperor. Yes, Echo agreed quietly, a faint note of wistfulness woven into his calm voice. I'm not the strongest. Those two are. The gathered emperors, both the oppressive dark faction and the radiant faction of light, shifted subtly, the atmosphere momentarily easing as Echo invoked the names of the two supreme powers whose might transcended even their own. Echo continued, voice low and deeply respectful, now that we've touched upon them, tell me, how fare the destruction true dragon emperor and the creation phoenix empress? For a fleeting instant, even the mighty deaf dragon emperor's oppressive aura softened, replaced by a grudging respect and ancient reverence shared by all present. Silence stretched briefly before the time dragon emperor finally spoke, his voice as ancient and profound as eternity itself, woven from endless rivers of cosmic memory and inevitability. The two of them are still resting, time dragon emperor murmured gently, his tone layered with quiet admiration and a deep sadness born from profound understanding. They have not awakened since the primordial war. They deserve their rest. The assembled emperors, even those steeped deeply in darkness, nodded solemnly in unified agreement. Every being present knew clearly the sacrifices made by those two peerless beings. Their contributions had been unmatched, their wounds deeper than any present had ever borne. The fleeting peace fractured once more, tension rapidly returning as the deaf dragon emperor's burning gaze shifted sharply back to Echo. His voice darkened again, harsh and edged with cold accusation. Then, knowing this, why are you attempting to break the very rules that you yourself established? We cannot interfere with the growth of limitless bearers. Doing so would plunge reality itself into chaos. Echo's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of disappointment etched across endless years. I have high hopes for him, more than I've ever placed in any other. If he undergoes evolution now, he'll remain in hibernation for decades, perhaps nearly a century. He will miss the events about to unfold, events critical to the destiny of the entire Chillicosm. The Death Dragon Emperor's gaze narrowed sharply, a deep, rumbling growl vibrating through the shattered void. His words carried a deadly edge, resonating with quiet menace. A mere 100 years is nothing. And that does not justify breaking your own law. Echo's voice sharpened abruptly, cutting through the oppressive atmosphere with sudden, unyielding authority. You have already abandoned the limitless bearers. You have turned your backs on the original purpose we all agreed upon. You chose instead to begin the 9th epoch, to push blindly into unknown realms without considering what might awaken as a consequence. The void itself trembled under Echo's accusation, the implications rippling outward, causing the gathered emperors to glance subtly at one another, tensions momentarily thickening into silent unease. Even the Death Dragon Emperor paused, momentarily rendered speechless by Echo's pointed words. Yet his pause was brief. Composure returning swiftly, the Death Dragon Emperor spoke again, voice calm yet unyielding, carrying the heavy burden of countless eons of frustrated patience. We have waited, trillions of years. Epoch after epoch, limitless bearers rose, and failed. We have received nothing. None of us can harness limitless, none among us can bring forth the promised salvation. His voice grew colder, quieter, yet even more dangerous in its chilling logic. So yes, we decided to take matters into our own hands. We refuse to be bound any longer by false hope, choosing instead a path we can control, a path toward certainty. Echo's expression hardened slowly, yet sadness lingered deeply within his ancient eyes. Certainty? You believe yourselves prepared to handle whatever lies beyond the boundaries of our Chillicosm structure? You think you can manage the consequences of disturbing beings whose strength we cannot comprehend, whose existence defies all our known laws? The gathered emperors were silent, tension thickening unbearably. Echo continued, his voice heavy, laden with ancient sorrow and reluctant truth. You risk unleashing horrors we fought so desperately to contain in the primordial war. The limitless bearer was meant to protect us from precisely those threats, to become our final shield and weapon, not something to be cast aside when convenient. Time Emperor interjected then, his voice calm yet filled with quiet urgency. We understand your point, Echo, but rules exist for a reason. You set them yourself to prevent chaotic interference. What makes this one mortal so different from the countless who have failed before? Echo glanced quietly downward, his gaze resting gently upon Orion's unconscious form, his voice dropping to a quiet whisper filled with unwavering conviction. Because I did not choose him for the limitless. His fate chose limitless itself. His fate is grander than all else before him. Silence hung heavily, each faction weighing Echo's solemn declaration. The Death Dragon Emperor finally broke the quiet, his voice low and dangerous, a final warning threaded carefully into every word. You may believe what you wish, throneless Emperor, but breaking your own law will shatter the balance we've maintained since the primordial war. If you persist in this, we cannot ignore it. Echo's calm gaze never wavered, his voice steady yet gentle, infused with the quiet strength of absolute resolve. I have already made my choice. You may have abandoned your faith, but I refuse to abandon mine. Slowly, deliberately, Echo raised his hand once more, golden threads of ancient cosmic laws weaving silently around his fingers, their gentle glow radiating softly yet defiantly amidst the oppressive darkness. The emperors bristled subtly, their collective aura surging dangerously, yet Echo remained steadfast, prepared to face any consequence. Reality itself seemed poised on the edge of annihilation, tension balanced precariously between cosmic forces immeasurable and absolute. Enough. The single word reverberated softly through the shattered void, yet carried enough authority to still even the oppressive darkness of the Death Dragon Emperor's presence. Time Dragon Emperor slowly stepped forward, his celestial form shimmering gently with rivers of luminous sands that flowed endlessly around him. Each grain seemed to contain within it the memories of entire epochs, gleaming softly in the suspended silence. Enough, he repeated quietly, exhaling a breath that rippled subtly across the fractured cosmos. You need not worry about this matter any further. Chapter 260, The One Who Carried the Burden Plus, Turn Off Reset. Chapter 260, The One Who Carried the Burden. His voice carried the soft weight of countless eons, calm, gentle, yet resolute. Time itself seemed to pause even further, waiting respectfully as the venerable being continued with quiet clarity. The throneless emperor is breaking his rules for the first time in countless trillions of years. He has searched relentlessly for a worthy successor, always bearing the fate of our entire kiliocosm structure upon his shoulders. His profound gaze shifted slowly over both factions, dark and light, touching each emperor present with a subtle, patient understanding. While others rebuilt their legacies, expanded their realms, or restored their races, he alone persisted in a solitary quest, wandering the endless void, tirelessly seeking the one who might save us all. At these gentle, patient words, the surging auras of both factions slowly receded, diminishing the overwhelming pressure that threatened to annihilate reality itself. Silence settled once more, thoughtful rather than hostile now, as the assembled emperors carefully considered Time Dragon Emperor's profound observation. Echo stood quietly at the center, unmoved and composed, though the subtle lines around his eyes deepened with quiet gratitude. He had known this would eventually happen, yet hearing it spoken aloud by Time Dragon Emperor himself carried a comforting reassurance. The venerable emperor's acknowledgement eased the tension gripping his ancient heart. Across from Echo, the Death Dragon Emperor and the dark-aligned emperors exchanged silent, meaningful glances. Their fierce determination softened into quiet acceptance, recognizing the truth Time Dragon Emperor had voiced. With a heavy exhalation that rippled the fabric of the void, Death Dragon Emperor finally inclined his immense head slightly, conceding quietly. This will be the only time, he rumbled deeply, his voice solemn yet tinged with reluctant respect. Interference will be permitted, this once. But, he can't fix his foundation. The mortal needs to overcome some trial himself if he's the one who will save us. His massive form began to fade slowly, merging back into shadows, the oppressive darkness gradually receding into the distant void. Behind him, the others followed silently, vanishing one by one, Decay Dragon Emperor, Darkness Dragon Emperor, Blood Dragon Empress, Demon Emperors, and even the immense Titan Emperor, all withdrawing their shadows gently from the fragile remnants of the Prime Realm. As the oppressive darkness dispersed, light and tranquility returned, gradually repairing the damage caused by the brief yet catastrophic presence of so many powerful beings. Echo's gaze followed them briefly, his expression calm, emotionless, but inwardly he felt relief wash gently through his ancient heart. He knew the fragile balance they maintained had nearly shattered, yet it held, for now. Slowly, he turned around, his expression warming subtly as he faced the assembled emperors who had quietly supported him. The radiant Life Dragon Empress gave Echo a gentle nod, her expression serene and understanding. The Elven Empress smiled softly, her emerald eyes filled with deep, silent gratitude, while the Phoenix Empress spread her majestic flaming wings in silent acknowledgement. The Fairy Empress's eyes sparkled gently, her presence flickering like starlight as she quietly withdrew. One by one, these supportive allies exchanged respectful greetings with Echo, their quiet words carrying gentle reassurance and gratitude. Each understood clearly the profound weight Echo had carried for eons, respecting his endless quest and silent sacrifice. As the last of them gently departed, fading gracefully into the quiet stillness beyond, only Time Dragon Emperor and Great World Tree Empress remained. Time Dragon Emperor's eternal sands flowed gently around him, illuminating the lingering darkness with soft golden brilliance. The Great World Tree Empress stood calmly beside him, her towering, ethereal form a luminous nexus of interconnected cosmic roots that quietly stabilized the fragile remnants of the Prime Realm around them. Time Dragon Emperor turned gently toward Echo, his ageless eyes filled with deep compassion and quiet admiration. His voice was gentle, ancient yet comforting. You bear a heavier burden than any other, throneless emperor. You have my respect and my gratitude. If you ever require aid, remember, you are not alone. Echo nodded slowly, his ancient gaze filled with understanding. I thank you, old friend. Your words carry more weight than you know. Echo stood silently at the heart of the shattered prime realm, his expression filled with quiet contemplation, burdened yet visibly lighter now that the immediate tension had passed. The great world tree empress stepped forward gracefully, her ethereal presence gently stirring fragments of destroyed reality as she moved. Her eyes held deep wisdom and a gentle sorrow as she observed the damage their mere shadows had caused. She shook her head softly, the leaves of her form shimmering like starlight. We truly destroyed a prime realm of this small kiliacosm, didn't we? She murmured softly, a hint of regret lacing her melodic voice. Her gaze roamed across the countless fractured shards of prime realms suspended around them, drifting slowly in the timeless void. Echo exhaled a quiet sigh, nodding slowly as he too surveyed the scattered remnants. His voice was calm, tinged with subtle remorse. Even the shadows of our power carry far too much weight in these fragile layers of reality. He turned toward Time Dragon Emperor, exhaling a soft breath. Can you fix it? Time Dragon Emperor inclined his head solemnly, his ageless eyes softening with understanding. Without a word, he extended his claw gently forward, the celestial sands flowing swiftly from him, weaving effortlessly into intricate patterns of cosmic law. Time itself began reversing, the fractured fragments slowly drifting back toward their original positions, gently mending reality like a shattered mirror pieced meticulously back together. In mere moments, the prime realm reformed seamlessly around them, restored perfectly to the instant before the Emperor's arrival. Orion lay peacefully unconscious once more, still cradled in Echo's timeless golden protection. Eldric's unfinished words hung silently in the frozen air, and everyone, Celine, Fiora, Rena, Magi, Lucan, remained suspended safely, untouched by the previous cataclysm. However, the leader of the kidnappers and vice leader had also been revived, as they remained suspended in the moment just before Celine burned them to ashes. The great world tree empress observed quietly, a soft smile of admiration crossing her serene features as reality completed its delicate restoration. She glanced curiously toward Lumi, her eyes twinkling with gentle intrigue as she sensed something familiar within the shimmering avatar. With a graceful tilt of her ethereal form, she addressed Lumi directly, voice filled with gentle curiosity. I sense the aura of a kin of mine upon you. Lumi's projection flickered sharply, caught off guard by the sudden attention of such an ancient entity. She hesitated nervously, instinctively protective. Echo chuckled softly, his eyes gentle yet firm as he glanced reassuringly toward Lumi. It's all right, Limitless, Echo spoke gently. Show her the world tree seed. Lumi bristled, shaking her digital head vigorously, her translucent form flickering anxiously. No. That's Master's treasure, I won't hand it over. Echo's eyes softened further, amusement and patience visible through his calm voice. Don't worry, little Limitless. She can help the seed heal. Trust me, it will benefit your master greatly. Lumi hesitated, wavering visibly between wanting to safeguard her master's treasure and trust in Echo's reassurance. After a tense silence, she finally relented with a sigh, carefully retrieving the damaged world tree seed from Orion's inventory. The seed hovered gently before her, its once lustrous surface cracked and dim, damaged and lifeless.